Hello guys, in this video tutorial we will be building a PHP REST framework from scratch, and we are not going to use any sort of advanced frameworks like Laravel and Coordinator, and this way you can learn how you can handle the requests like put, post, delete and get requests in PHP, as well as you can also get a gist of how object-oriented programming works. So let's go and get started with this tutorial. So firstly, make sure your MAM server is running, so which I have. Currently it's not, but it now started to run my MAM server, and it will load up a page in the browser. So for my SQL server is started, and its MAM utility page is running now on localhost 4x8. So go into my root of the SDAccess. These are my projects which I have been working on so far, but now I'm just gonna quickly create another project. So I recommend Visual Studio Code in order to write codes, and I'm gonna open a folder over here in my htdocs, and I'm gonna create a folder PHP API REST, so in which this directory is open, and this will be the root of our project. So let me go and just increase the size so that you can see all the things whatever we are working on, and currently it's empty. Now if I reload this page, we have this PHP API REST over here. Now if I wanted to go to the database, I can simply click on tools and go to my PHP my admin, and this will load up the database. So I'll be creating first is the database. So let's go and create a database, and our database will be PHP REST API PHP, and let's get create, and the columns will be 5, and the table name will be posts. So this will be the table name, and first one will be the integer type, which is ID, and that will be the ID of the post, and auto increment will be set. Then next column will be the title, and which will be a varchar, and it can accept the characters up to 100, so we are basically limiting the characters. Then here we have the body, and the body section, it will be of text, and I'm not going to specify any length for the text because body can be any long also. Then next field which we are going to define is author, that will be a varchar, and we are accepting the name up to 80 characters. Then next one will be the created at, and this will be timestamp, and by default it is going to create the current timestamp. So we are all set with our database, and here we have our post table which have post, and the structure of this post table is ID, title, body, author, and created at. So let's go and create some files in my root directory. So to go to my root of the project in Visual Studio Code, I'm going to create first file, that is index.php. so simply this will be a PHP tag, and I'm just echo out here, this is the root of the project. And if I go and reload this page and click on this page, this is the root of the project is here. So my MAM server is also running, and that's all. So next, quickly I'm going to create some folders here. First one will be classes, and next one will be API, and here I'm going to create one file, that is posts.php, and the second one will be in the classes directory, that is database.php. so this way providing a structure to our project. And now let's go and create something else. So if I currently head over to my index.php page, we are just seeing in the URL that we are not getting index.php. If I run this thing, type it manually, we are again see this index.php. So by default PHP loads up the index.php script in the root directory, otherwise you have to specify nothing. And if I go ahead and create something, write something else instead of index file like hello, it gives URL PHP API hello.php was not found on the server. So in order to deal with this, I don't want to put this index.php in every URL or every route of the project. So in order to deal with that thing, I'm going to create a new file that is .html access, and I'm gonna quickly grab some snippets which I have created in other project. So this thing is basically gonna if we have any 404 request, because this is a kind of 404 request. This is a 404 request because that page is not found over there. So this thing is gonna redirect the user to this index.php page. So now if I go ahead and give this a try, then we are gonna see it automatically it is redirected to our index.php file, which is this. So I'll be mentioning this code in the description, where you can simply grab and copy and paste it in the .htaccess file. So let's go and create something. So first we will be to deal with the database. I'm gonna go to my database.php file, in classes, open PHP tags, and I'm gonna call a class that will be db, and I'm gonna define a private static function connect. So basically this function is gonna connect our database, connect to our database. So I'll define a PDO object which is equal to new PDO, and it accepts 3 parameters in there. So first parameter is for the database name, second parameter is for the password, username as well as password. So in this way we can interact with the database. So first, to connect with here we have to specify our database which we are connecting with. So currently in my case we are connecting with MySQL. So will provide simply MySQL host equal to localhost, and our MySQL server is running on port 889, because you can find it out over here in the documentation of the MAMP root project. So to connect with the MySQL, this runs on the port 8889, and if you are in XAMPP you can directly use. You need not to specify this thing. It runs on port 333 something 606. Then also we have to specify the database name. So we can simply write db name equal to, and our database is PHP. We just create PHP REST API PHP. So our database will be REST API PHP. So this is the name of the database. The second parameter will be the username. That will, in my case, that is a root, because I haven't set to anything else. Then again root. So we are all set with our PDO connection, PDO object ready. So now in order to access this thing, we can simply write PDO set attribute, in which we'll pass a argument ATR error mode. Second argument will be PDO error mode exception, in order to deal with any kind of error in this. And at last we are going to return that PDO object that we created. So we can simply write return $PDO. So in this way we are just providing an instance where we can connect with the database. So now I'm gonna quickly create another function, that is public static function query, and in this I'm gonna pass 2 parameters. So query $params, which will be, and by default this will be array of empty array. If we haven't passed any sort of parameters as array as a parameter in this function, so it will quickly take it as a default empty array object. To interact with the database, I'm just gonna quickly write some codes. So statement is equal to self. So basically we are referencing this instance of this class. So we will simply say connect, and then prepare, and here we'll pass our query which we are gonna write. The next one is like statement stmt is equal to, we need to execute that query, execute and we'll bind that params over here. Params. So whatever the parameters we are passing in here will go through this and it will execute our query. Now one more thing, this will give you an error because if we are going to retrieve any data we need to return something, but this is if the parameter is empty, then we are gonna so to handle that kind of thing we can simply check if the query starts with select type something. So this will be simply $query and at 0 index. So this basically this function is gonna explode this query variable, which will be the string, into the array of a string, and if its first parameter is equal to first word is equal to select, then we are gonna return some data. Otherwise we are not gonna return any data. So data $stmt and fetch all, and then return $data. Yeah, we are all done with the database. And to check this whether the database is working properly, we can simply go to this URL in my root directory and we can simply write we can simply go to classes folder, database.php, and we are not getting any sort of error. This page should be loading blank, and if it is so, then we have successfully connected to our database. So now let's go to index.php page, and in which I'm gonna define some headers, because we are creating some global API so that other origin of request can be allowed. So for that we have to mention some headers and enable CORS there. So access control allow origin, and which will set to all, because in this case we are just gonna accept any sort of request from anywhere. Then second parameter will be header, access control allow methods. So basically we are specifying all the method, all the type of request which we can handle through this route. That will be the post type of request, as well we will be dealing with the get request also, then delete request, then put request also. So basically we are allowing this PHP file to handle all sort of requests, that post, get, delete and put request. So that's why we are specifying that line in here. So now let me quickly show how we can check whatever the method we are dealing with. So for that I'm gonna create method variable, and which will simply echo out, simply have the method to get request method. And now if I save and if I go echo this out, $method, and now if I go to Postman, so I'll be heavily using Postman in this series. So currently if I'm gonna make this this route, so currently it is localhost 888 and then PHP API REST, and if I go here it's a get method that automatically found which method we are dealing with. Now if I go and so we are getting post method. So now if I go ahead and check for other methods too, like we can go for the put request and we are getting put over here. So in this way we are able to map requests, whatever the request we are getting here. So let me quickly comment this line out, and then I'm gonna create some more. So now we need to grab the URL and get what type of URL which we are dealing with. So for that I'm gonna create a variable request URI, and that is $_server and request URI. We'll pass this parameter. Now let's go and echo this out, what we are dealing with here. So request URI, and if I just simply echo it out, and now if I send it, we are getting this root here. Now if I go ahead write something else like post, and if I send this thing, we are getting this here. So this is basically giving a URL of that file. So in this way we can get the requested URL. Then I'm gonna create one more variable, that is $URL, in order to sanitize that thing. So simply I'm gonna use rtrim, and here I'm gonna trim the last slash which we are getting over here. So we can simply do that, or if there is, then we can simply pass this request URI, and if I echo out $URL, now quickly see what we are getting. We are getting this thing as a post, and now if I put slash also over here, then again we are getting this thing. So this is basically method we are just getting the URL. Now if I go ahead and write another function, because firstly we have to filter that URL. So for that, filter inbuilt PHP function is filter var, and here I'm gonna put request URI and filter sanitize URL. This is a function which will be executed in order to filter that any other, like if we have ampersands and breaks in there. So now if I go ahead and just quickly reload this page, we might not get any changes, but it is basically filtering our URL and putting a slash over here. And if I make it as post, again we are getting it properly. So in this way we can format our URL basically. So now we need to get the parameters from the URL. So for that we can simply write explode. We can use explode function, and I'm gonna explode that URL with this thing. So now if I go ahead and let's put a var print r function, which will give you the which we are. So if I go ahead and make this send request, we are getting that at first parameter we are getting anything, in the second parameter we are getting this part, and in the third parameter we are getting this part. So if I go ahead and write something else like users, and if I send it over here, now we get users also. So basically this line of code is exploding that string and converting into array, and in which the delimiter is /. So I'm gonna quickly comment this line out so that it might not. So now I just want to do, like if we are making any request with this post, so I want to reference it with post table which we just created in the database. So to do that, in order to do that, I'm just simply gonna create a table name variable which is equal to, and firstly I'm gonna typecast that thing into string format, and then $URL, and that will be 3 because we are getting at third position. But I also want to append this API here, because before making this request I wanna just go and get append that thing. So now if I go ahead and echo this table name over here, so for that I can simply use print r $table name, and if I go ahead and send this thing out, we are getting post over here. So in this way we can simply get the table name, reference to the table name. Now we are also checking for if there's any ID associated, like for this one I will just want to get the post from the database which has the ID 1, and if I pass 5 over here, we can simply get the 5th post from the database. So to do that, we are just gonna check if URL at position 4 is not equal to null, then we are simply gonna convert that thing into ID, and which will be a integer type, so I'm gonna quickly typecast that thing into $URL, because by default it will be sending into a string. It will be, after exploding also, it will be converted into a string part. So I'm gonna typecast that thing, and if $ID, if there's nothing, then we're simply gonna put it null. So in this way we have already dealt with the routes, requested routes. So now we are just gonna we are gonna check what type of tables we have in our column, in our database. So to do that, I'm just gonna create a variable very quickly, that is over here, that is dollar, or not here, let me format this code quickly. Yeah, $tables, and this will be array in which we'll be having our tables. So currently we have post table in the database, so I'm gonna quickly check that out, whether that that table name exists in this table. So to do that, we can simply check. We have a function called inArray, and it accepts two parameters. First one is the value to be checked in that array, so that value is in our table name, and second parameter is the array in which we are checking. And if it is true, then I want to echo out whatever we are getting. Include that API route. Else we are just simply gonna echo out table does not exist. So if I go ahead and reload if I go ahead and send this thing, we are getting null, because, or we can simply write this thing, we can echo out this thing over here, and table does exist. So if I go send, table does exist, we are getting. And if I change this thing to user something else, table does not exist, we are getting as a message. So basically we are dealing with the things in that way. So now I'm gonna go to my API files via post. So this will be the API route, which will be dealing with all the things related to the post object or post table in the database. So basically now we are gonna include that once, and it accepts a string. In the current directory, go to API, then posts.php file. This thing happens. And now if I go ahead and simply write echo out, this is post function handler. So now if I go to my postman, if I go send this thing, we are getting table does not exist. And if I write post, currently we are not doing anything else than this, then this is a post handler function. That means that file has been included successfully in our index.php file. So now let's go and create some logics over here. Yeah, one more thing, if all these things are working properly, we also want to include our database, which we have created in our classes folder. So to that I can simply write include once classes, and the file name is database.php, and if everything goes well, we should not get any sort of error in here. So it's always good to check your routes at every action. So now if I check out what kind of methods we are getting, we have already checked that thing. So firstly I want to go for the methods. If methods equals to get type, because with the get type methods I just want to give particular a post from the database which will be having some ID at the route, and if it is not, so we are gonna check that thing out over here. If $ID, if it is there, if it's not equal to null, then we want to grab the data from the database. with that associated with that ID. So for that I can simply write $data equal to DB query, and our function which we created in the database was simple query. We are including that query and we are creating the instance of the DB class which we have created in the database over here. So I'm gonna execute that function over here, and here I'll be writing my query. Select all from, and here if we have already have the table name in our table name variable, so I can simply write, and I'm using double quotes over here, so I can simply reference the table name variable here, and then check where ID equal to $ID, and I'm gonna pass the parameter array in which I'm gonna give this key of ID which will be referenced over here. So here will be our ID, and now this data will hold all the values in the database. All the values, all this will fetch the data from the database or particular post from the database. So let's go and echo out, or firstly we can give a message. If $data not equal to null, then I'm gonna simply give that data back. Echo JSON encode. This is a method to give the JSON response from the data in PHP. And I'm gonna go to, let's go and quickly check what we are getting. And if it is empty, then we are gonna simply write, give that. The message will be currently there are no posts in the database. And now let's go ahead. Currently we don't have any post in the database, so if I send this request, change this method, so the method type is get type, and if I send, currently we don't have any post in the database. Yeah, quick fix over here. I just mentioned S over here. Now if I go and send this thing over here, so we are getting a JSON response, which means currently we don't have any. So now let's go and handle other routes. If we have something in the database, then return that thing. So else, in my else block I will simply write this thing, and this else is respect to this thing. So so we will simply echo out every query from the database. So for that we can simply write $data equal to DB and query, and we will simply write select all from, and we have table name here, and then we will simply echo out that data. Echo JSON encode, and we'll pass that data back. So if I save this file, now if I go ahead and if I send back, if I get rid of this thing, we'll get null object, because currently we don't have any data in our database. So this was the thing to handle our get request. So now if we'll go to the else if block, and if $method equal to post request, that means we have to add some data to the database. So for that I will simply write if $_post not equal to null, as well as our ID is empty field, ID field is empty or null, then we are gonna post that data here. We're gonna add that data to the database. So now we have to just extract those variables from post object, which is a super global. So to get those things, we can simply go write this function as like extract, and this accepts the argument in which will be the or post variable. Now if I go ahead and put something like we just simply gonna print that thing, it's kind of helpful in debugging, so I can simply write currently our post table will be having something in it. So let's say I have title, so we get the access to that variable. Now if I save and go to my postman, I make a post request from here to this post table, and that will be like some key to that thing. I'm gonna go to headers, over here X form URL encoded, we can simply write here title Nandi Mandy, whatever. We are getting that thing here. So this means whatever the parameters which we will be passing, we have a direct access to them using this thing, extract function. And currently our post object post array is containing a key with a title in there. So this is quite helpful, and instead of having all the posts, so we have access to those form inputs now. So now to insert that data, db, we'll simply write db query, and here I'll write query insert into, and we have a dollar table name, in which table, and values, and since first one is the ID field, which is the auto increment, so we won't be passing anything, so I'll be simply saying null, and then I'm gonna pass title as well as content as well as author. And since we have one more field that is created that field, and that is a timestamp field, and by default it will give you the current timestamp, so we have to pass again null to that. And now we have to pass that array of the variables, so I'm gonna pass simply write, and I'm just gonna, this query would be quite long, so I'm gonna give the word wrap over here so that everything comes to the next line. So I'm gonna pass that array in which our first parameter will be title as a key, and we are accessing dollar title. Second one will be like we have not the content, I guess, yeah, this one is like, I guess, body. So let me go and quickly check it. Yeah, it's a body. So instead of content, we will simply write body, and here we will reference that thing, and we will get the body. And then we have author field, and it will reference to the author variable. So in this way we are able to insert a database into database, and now we also be sending all the data back to the user after posting it. So for that I can simply write data db query, and there will be select all from table name order by ID DESC limit. This will be the query which will give you the latest post from the database, because we are just getting those data filled in and I want to get back. And so simply to get that, send that response back, we can simply write JSON encode, and here let me quickly check this out. I just want to give a message post added to the database successfully, and the status or success response will be true, and I want to return that post back. So for that I will give you post, I'll give back post key with the data $data at 0. So this will be our query. And if we don't have these fields null or empty, then we can simply write this query. This will simply say please fill. We'll give the response back, that is please fill in all the credentials, and success will be, in this case, will be false, and we don't have any post because we haven't got it added to the database. So now let's go ahead and create let's make this request. I have this MySQL server running, and I'm going to my postman. I make a post request to this title key. Body will be PHP REST API, and body will be, this is simple tutorial for PHP REST API. And we have author, so by author will be obviously code book. And now if I make this request, we are getting our data added to the database, and as well as we are getting this code book created at and updated at field also. And if I go to my database and if I reload this page, we have our post over here, which we have successfully made that thing back. So in this now if I go to make this get request, so I'm gonna quickly go to here and just copy this URL, make this get request. So in this case we will be getting our post back from in a sort of in an array. So let's go and make one more post 2. This is the body for the post 2, and send back. We are getting the data back from there. And if I go to my get request, now we are getting 2 posts over here as a JSON response. We were successfully able to add the post to the database as well as get all the posts from the database, but we haven't checked so far that to create a single post. So I'm just gonna grab the ID from the post which has the ID, and if I send this request, we are getting this ID over here. So currently it is returning the array in which we have the post object. So let's go and quickly fix that, because I just want to get only the post as an object. So to do that, we have to just put this thing over here. And one more thing, if I now make this request, we are getting only the body, only the object, post object which has. So one more thing you have noticed over here, that is ID is 1, but at 0 position is also 1. So basically it is returning me 2 arrays in a single object, and that is why one is the associative array while the other one is the indexed array. So in order to get only the single one, we have to add one more attribute to this, that is to our database class in our query function, that is PDO, simply fetch a sock, and this will be helpful in getting only the associative array. Now if I make this request, and we'll get only the associative array. Now if I quickly, let's go and quickly test this post. For the post 1, we are getting 2 posts which we have in the database, and if I put 2, we have second post, only the associative array. So next thing is like to handle the push and delete request. So to do that, I want to go and add one more condition, else if, because since put and post request do have the IDs on their URL, and the ID we have already grabbed from the request URI here, requested URI. So if there's ID, then only we wanna execute this function, otherwise we won't. So if $method equal to, and before performing delete operations as well as update operation, I want to check whether that post is all there or not. So simply for that, I will simply write post equal to db query function, which will be simply, in which we'll be getting the ID, we'll be passing ID select all from and we have access to $table name with where clause, where id equal to our binded id, and with this I'll pass an array in which I'll simply write, I'll pass the key as id and we'll pass that id over here. So now if that id is there, if that post object is not null, that means that post exists in the database. So we can simply check that out. If $post not equal to null, then we will do this. Else we're gonna simply send back a message to the user that that post does not exist. So I can simply copy this line of code over here and put that thing here, and message will be post not found. So in this case, so let's go and quickly test this out. And if I make this put request, now if I send back, currently it's not doing anything because we haven't tested this for the put and put request. So if $method equal to put, else if $method equal to delete. So now if I save this file and if I go and send this request over here, currently this post exists, that's why we are not getting anything. If I write something like post 5, the message will be post not found, so access is false. So if that post method is, if the method is put, then we want to update that date. But in the beginning when I was a learner, then I was like quite confused while doing this thing. So to do that, let's make a custom variable that is a put one, and let's see what it happens, what it gives. File, get contents, and in which I'll pass PHP input. Yeah, oh my god, PHP input, and let's go and quickly check what we are getting in this case. So if I go ahead and simply for debugging, I can simply put print r and $_put, and if I save this thing, yeah, something went wrong. So if I go to my posts file, yeah, I can simply write print r, and in which I'm gonna just put that variable over here. So now let's go ahead and make sure to make a put request, we have to go to this, not to this body, we have to go to this raw JSON file, and in this text will be JSON application/JSON. So first is title, hello world, a classical example, and then we have a body, and since it is a JSON, we have to wrap it in double quotes. So this is the body for something, and author code book. And now if I send this request, this will be a put request. Now if I send this request, we are getting messages post not found because we haven't given a correct ID. Now if I send back, we don't get any sort of response. Why is that? Yeah, so I can simply check that out also. Like I can simply go and write in a URL form encoded. So we can simply use title, that will be hello world, body, something happened, author. Currently we are not adding any post to the database, so code book, and if I send back, Why aren't we getting that thing? Yeah, PHP input, single, silly mistakes. Now if I send, we are getting title with the space, hello world, and whatever. So for the spaces we are getting and %20. And if I same way if I go to my raw.json file and instead of text application /json, if I send back, we are getting this as a object back. So now we have to decode that thing in JSON. We have to decode, and it is a simply like this part. We have a JSON encode. So simply we have JSON decode for that. Decode, and it accepts two parameters, that is true. And now if I save and put print r over there, what we are gonna get? If I send this request, we are getting title key with the hello world value and body with this value. So now we are successfully able to handle our put request. But now I just want to make this quickly, wrap it in extract method so that we can access each key as a separate variable in the code. So now if I just put print _r, and if I put here $title, and if I save here and if I send this request, we are getting the hello world back. And the same way we can use it for the body. So basically this is called object destructuring. So now we have access to those variables as a separate variables. Now we have to update the query, update the post in the database. So to do that, we can simply write db query function, and here we'll write our query. So update, and we have access to the table name variable, that is, and set title equal to title parameter and comma content equal to, sorry, this will be content, this will be body, to the body parameter, and author parameter, and this will be the query end, and we'll pass the array, and I'm just wrapping it word wrap, so we can pass that array over here. So title, we have $title, body, $body, and then we have author, $author. So now if I go and save this thing, this query will work. Now I want to send back the updated post which we have just created. So to get that, we have to write another query to get that post from there. So we can simply write data, and we instantiate db object again, query, in which will pass attribute like select all from table name. Already we have access to it, where id equal to id, and we'll pass the array in which we'll bind that id to the id parameter, $id. So in this way we will get that data back, and now we just want to send that data back. Echo JSON encode, and I want to send back post equal to $data, and at 0's location, and message post updated successfully, and success status will be true. So this is the query to handle the update request. Now if I go to this part and if I just go to this API postman, if I send this thing, we are getting that post, and that post message is saying post updated successfully in the database. Now if I reload that post over here, so we are having hello world ID for something at codebook. So now if I make the get request to get all the posts from the database, we can simply write this part and send this back. We are getting to both the post over here. And now if I make, let's quickly add one more post. We'll simply write that URL. Yeah, we have not in the headers, we have to go to body part. So here will be title, post test, body, this is body for test post, author obviously codebook inc. And now if I make this request, we are getting the post added to the database successfully. If I go to get post, we are getting 3 posts now. And now in order to update that post, we are getting the ID of that post, that is 3. Go to the put request and send this updated title post test, and if I send back, we are getting this post back from the database. And now if I go, we are getting that post has been updated. Oh, I forgot one more thing. We have to add this where clause here. This is a way, forgot to write that thing, where id equal to id, and we have to mention that thing over here, that is we have to bind that parameter to the id, because it was initially sending the request and it was updating all the posts, so I forgot to add that thing. So now if I go ahead and update those posts, so this is a post 3, this is the body for the post 3, and now if I send back, we have post 3 updated. And now if I get request, we have post for the body 3, so this is the body for the post 3. In the same way we can update second one also, let's say post 2, and that gives you post 2, and I'm gonna update the author. And if I send this thing back, we have updated the post of 2 also. So in this way we can interact with the APIs. So let me quickly open this well enough so that you can see the full preview. So title one updated post test, something is fishy. Then the second is the post body for the post view. In this way we can update the posts. So now let's go and quickly handle the delete request. So in order to handle the delete request, it's very simple. We have to simply perform this query delete from $table name where id equal to $id, and I'm gonna bind that params to id $id, and I want to just give you a response back that is same, which is post deleted successfully. So now quickly let's go and delete any post of here. So currently we have around 3 posts in the database, and let's go to the database and check them all. Yeah, we have this. So I want to get rid of the first post. I can simply go and create new tab and go to delete and just quickly copy this URI and simply paste it over here, and I want to get rid of first post. So if I send back, we have the post now. Yeah, so I want to quickly get rid of this thing. So now if I send this thing, because success is equal to post not found, so let's go and delete another post, that is post 2, and if I send back post deleted successfully, success is true. So if I go ahead check in the database, we have currently single post in the database. So this is video about how you can create a REST API in your PHP script. If you like the video and want if you want to promote, help us in growing our channel, you can subscribe, share our videos to those guys who want to get started with the programming. And PHP is a great language, and don't worry, I will be creating other Python videos also soon, as well as I'll be dealing with other frameworks like Angular, Vue and Vue, Ionic. So a lot of stuff going on, so just hit the subscribe button and help us to grow. Thank you guys.